A few weeks ago, my pastor at Olivet Christian Church, Hannah, who's also a Bethany Fellow, reminded us that this Christian year that is ours, that time itself is seen differently by the church than the way we typically understand time. In the church and in some other cultures, time is experienced as a circle, not a straight line. And Advent, which began last Sunday, is seen as the beginning of a new year already, when the ending is becoming the beginning in this circle of life. The season invites us to get a head start in what is beginning when we are not quite to January 1st. The season of Advent invites us to what is next, with the intention and the promise represented in that circular Advent wreath, that the new year will once again bring hope, bring peace, bring love and joy and light, even in the darkness. So listening to Pastor Hannah, I began to wonder how I wanted to end this year that is also beginning even now. What did I want to bring with me from this year past into this new year as it is unfolding? What did I want to bring into this ongoing circle of my life? Well, this past year, I had three very interesting and different companions with whom I traveled almost daily. They were writers whose thoughts and wisdom have been guiding me and stretching me in the daily readings and reflections, and whose wisdom has challenged me. It's been with me. So I decided that as this year was transitioning, I would choose one piece from each of those readings, from each of their wise writings, and carry it forward with me, and to share it with you this morning as well. So let me introduce you to these three. First is Alice Walker. Alice is an activist, a writer, an outspoken leader in our world. She is probably best known for her book of fiction and yet words of great truth in The Color Purple. Somebody read The Color Purple, seen the movie? Yes. Well, I accidentally came across a book of her poetry in my little neighborhood library on a path that I walk almost daily, and I spent the year stepping into her world one poem at a time. Her book is called Her Blue Body, Everything We Know, Earthly Poems, and from 1965 to 1990. And the next companion that has been mine is a Dr. Lauren Roche. Lauren is a writer and a teacher of meditation in the yoga tradition. You see, one of my best friends in Colombia asked me for years to go with her to yoga. And I said, oh no, thanks, I'm just too busy. Don't have time. Thank you though for the invitation. And then about 4 years ago, Elaine nearly died. And she was in a coma for weeks. My friend, Haley's friend, Don Shutt, the first director of Bethany Fellows, asked me in those weeks as I was going to be with her at the hospital, how can I pray with you? And I said, would you please pray I'll stop writing her obituary? He said, oh yeah, you got to stop that. Yeah. And then slowly, she came out of the coma, and she began to recover, and she invited me to go to yoga. And I said, yes, of course. For her, of course. And to my surprise, what I have found there has been a rich and spiritual well that has enhanced my Christian life. So Lauren's book that I have been reading is called The Radiance Sutras, 112 Gateways of Wonder and Delight. And my third companion this year has been Wendell Berry. Do you know Wendell Berry? Some of you are nodding. How to describe this prolific writer and leader in our Christian community? He describes himself as a mad farmer. For more than 50 years, he has lived and farmed with his wife, Tanya, in Kentucky, and written novels, essays, poems, and more. I saw Marianne and Keith McQuithy yesterday, and on their shelf, right by the reading chair, was a Wendell book, Jayber Crow. And I asked Marianne about it, and she said, yes, why did it take you so long to find Wendell Berry? Any of us who have read Wendell Berry feel the same way. Why did it take us so long? And so a farmer friend of mine, Johnny Ray, who used to be the director of Week of Compassion, introduced me to Wendell's book. It's called This Day, Collected and New Sabbath Poems. So I hope you're imagining it, these three very different wise ones, Alice, Lauren, and Wendell, walking hand in hand with me and with each other this year, usually in the wee morning hours. And there are the three specific pieces that I call upon at this moment, and I've chosen to gift myself into this new year, and I want to offer it to you today. So the first is the Alice Walker poem called Sunday School, circa 1950. Here's the poem. Who made you was always the question, and the answer was always God. Well, there we stood 3 feet high, heads bowed, leaning into bosoms. Now, she says, I no longer recall the catechism or brood on the genesis of life. No, I ponder the exchange itself and salvage mostly the leaning. I've got to read it again, it's so good. Who made you was always the question. The answer was always God. Well, there we stood, 3 feet high, heads bowed, leaning into bosoms. Now I no longer recall the catechism or brood over the genesis of life. No. I ponder the exchange itself and salvage mostly the leaning. The leaning. When I first read that poem, I was transported back to 1961, where I was 3 feet high, leaning into Miss Irvine in the preschool Sunday school class of the church in Texas that would grow me up. The church that would teach me about Jesus and that Jesus loves me. And as a teenager, guide me to the scripture of Micah 6:8, that what does the Lord require of me but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with my God. The church that stood with us and prayed with us when my dad had his first heart attack at 50, and then the surgeries that would follow. I salvaged the leaning in all the churches since. Mostly, I remember the leaning. And I remember leaning here into the wisdom of John Votaw and Gail Wilson, Doris Sunday, Susie Beamer, years of leaning. Sharon, with you and Lee and boys, Thanksgivings of leaning in your home. Lynn and Bob Plunkett, leaning. I remember walking into a church and handing baby Gage, this church, to someone when we walked in the door, only for him to be handed back to us when we got ready to leave. And in the in-between, there was a well-loved baby who had leaned into your hearts. Wabash Christian Church, I have witnessed your leaning for many, many years. And I am so grateful for the leaning of this year, for the leaning of the last several months. I'm grateful for the leaning and the support of your elders, as led by Jim. Thank you. I am grateful for those leaning moments that I have heard about where Haley was praying with the Wright family as Jean was leaving. And then Marvin prayed for his pastor, Haley. The leaning. Remember salvage the leaning, my friends, as the circle of life unfolds into what lies ahead. And I just want to add, trust it. Trust the leaning in one another in this circle, this practice of living into hope and peace and joy and love and light. So thank you, Alice, for the gift of your poem. From the yoga teacher, Lauren, these words for this new year. Lauren writes, each person you love or have loved is a doorway to the divine. When you think of them, it is as if you were thinking a mantra, a name for God. I love that. I never thought of that before. That the name of our beloveds are a mantra to the divine, and yet another name for God. Lauren says, when you unite with them, even by cherishing their memory in your heart, you are practicing a kind of love. And then he says, dogs are masters of this. When dogs see someone they love, they don't hold back. They levitate with bliss. It rises in them. They leap. Teachers are everywhere in our environment and in the connections with all other living things. He asks a poignant question. Who are your teachers on the path of love? Isn't that a great question? Who are your teachers on the path of love? Well, I have to ask you, have you met Gizmo, the Wonder Dog? Have you seen a video of when Haley is away and then she comes home to be greeted by Gizmo, levitating with bliss? Describes it really well. Gizmo right now is one of my teachers of love on this path. Although I know something is amiss when I get a text from Haley that begins, your dog, or the video that arrives that says, Gizmo, tell Aunt Kim what you did. And I have to say, I love the photos of his sweet, charming face as he works on eye contact in obedience school. And he reminds me to work on my eye contact. He reminds me to welcome those I love with delight and with devotion. Who are your teachers of love? In this ever-circling life, we are so needful of teachers of love, aren't we? So thank you, yoga teacher Lauren, for this word. Which brings me to Wendell Berry. I very sadly came to the last page of his poems a few weeks ago, and I wasn't ready for this shared path to end. His last poem in the book is about the season of Advent, and the season also of history that we are in. So I invite you to listen to his faithful quandary. Here is his poem. It's a little bit long, so stay with me. As a child, the mad farmer saw easily the vision of heaven's Christ born in a stable. The brilliant stars stopped in the high dark, the sheltered beast standing silently by. He knows the beast. The mad farmer himself is a shepherd. And still more clearly, by the gift of a moment, he sees the shepherds on their cold hill by night, the sky flying suddenly open over their heads, the light of very heaven falling upon them. The angels descending slowly as snow, their singing filling far and wide the dark, on earth peace, goodwill. The vision, he says, the gift only of moments, he has kept in his eyes and in his heart. He knows how it passes, how it fades, how it stays, how far we have drawn away. He thinks of distance, the hard, hungry journey of a foolish man, a pilgrim in the foreshadow of apocalypse, toward the almost forgotten light beyond the polluted river, the blasted mountains, the killed children, the bombed villages haunted already by the hurting bodies of their dead. Some of the past he dreads as if it has not yet happened. From present portent he fears the time to come. Beyond and beyond is the shepherd startling, ever-staying light. Let me read that line again. Beyond and beyond is the shepherd startling, ever-staying light. No creature of his slow-minded kind may ever stand in that light again. And yet, he sets out. Such an honest word, isn't it? Of what confronts us in our world and our lives, the pain of the past, the failures of the past, the fear of the future, the realities of the present. And yet, beyond and beyond is the shepherd startling, ever-staying light. And as a shepherd, a farmer, a Christian, a follower of Christ, Wendell sets out toward the ever-circling, ever-abiding promise of peace and goodwill on earth, sung by angels far and wide in the dark, and invites us to set out as well. That we as Christians, as followers of Christ, we set out into this new year, into the ever-staying light. Yes. Thank you, Wendell Berry. So my hope and my prayer for you, Wabash Christian Church, for myself in this year that has already begun, is that we gather in the wisdom of our teachers of love. We gather in the wisdom of the companions like the Apostle Paul, the words that Jim read well for us this morning. We gather in the words of Alice and Lauren and Gizmo and Wendell, that we remember the leaning. That we continue to look for those teachers of love. That we hold fast to the ever-staying light in the midst of our darkness. And may the prayer of Paul that Jim already read for us, may that prayer of the Apostle Paul set our course ahead. May the God of steadfastness and encouragement grant you to live in harmony with one another. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that you will abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. May it be so. This congregation continues to be a witness to the hope and the joy and the love and the power of God. And so it is that every week you extend a welcome to anyone who is here, who's looking to be a part of a community of faith, who's looking to be a part of those upon whom you can lean, those upon whom and with whom you can live your life. So we invite you through that affirmation of faith in Christ, through a statement of belief in the power of that love, to come forward as we sing a song of invitation.